Well, at least 15 people have been killed after a massive fire broke out at the coaching center building in Lucknow's Aliganj area. Today, we are going to tell you on Setting the Agenda 5 deadly lapses, 5 exclusive angles as we decode for you whose fault was it. There were several who were trapped in this place. In fact, it spread very rapidly. Look at your screens, viewers. You'll be able to see the disturbing visuals emerging, showing desperate escape attempts which were made, students who jumped from windows and clung down as they held on to ropes. The fire raged on for over an hour, being brought under control, and at least 15 bodies have been recovered from the site. 4 people have been arrested so far, and this includes Tushar Krishna Jaiswal, Virendra Prasad Shukla, Ram Krishna Upadhyay, and Suresh Kumar Sahu. The co-owner is Surendra. He is absconding. One of the owners has been apprehended. Well, the UP government has ordered a 2-member SIT probe, while 4 officials have been suspended. The FSL team is on the spot collecting evidence, trying to determine what really triggered this deadly fire. The Lucknow Development Authority has also initiated an inquiry into the lapses, but the big question is who's responsible for this tragedy? Who has blood on their hands? Well, Times Now is on the ground at the spot of this blazing inferno in Lucknow, bringing you every single update as it unfolds, tracking the negligence, the lapses, and the truth behind this devastating fire, standing with the victims and their families in this time of need. In fact, what really are the lapses that may have led to this tragedy? We are going to tell you that. This is a spot report from Adeep, our reporter, who was right there when the accident unfolded in front of his eyes, and rescue operations were also being carried out.
Times Now is inside this particular building. You can see the condition, how this building has been completely engulfed in flames. There is only one single entry exit point, as you can see in the visuals. This is the ground floor of this particular building. You can see the condition of the building. There are clearly several violations of the fire safety norms. There are only one single entry and exit point into this particular building. So you can see that how this particular building, where 15 people lost their lives, how this building, the people got trapped. There are only one single and entry exit point. There were certain violations, and there were no emergency exit in this building. Only single entry and exit point. Had it been there were many different entry and exit point, people would have been saved.
So what really were the fatal lapses may have led to this tragedy? The first lapse is that there was a 3-floor expansion which happened without a clearance. So this entire building which was set ablaze had an expansion plan, but there was no clearance which they managed to get from the civic authorities. The second one is that the property lacked fire department NOC, no NOC, and that is one of the most basic requirements which are required. But who allowed that to happen? Those are the questions. The building had only one entry and exit points, and unfortunately this is something that we saw in the Delhi inferno as well. One entry and exit points means everyone was forced to come out from the same spot. Unfortunately, it was blocked by auto card access. Also, preliminary report is flagging that there were no emergency exits, only one entry and one exit. Reports are saying that biometric gate, the only one exit which was allowed, had biometric gate access, and when the fire started spreading, it became auto locked, and that is the problem. But let's also tell you just how auto lock can delay an exit, and this is something you need to be very careful about. Most offices have auto locks and biometric systems for attendance, but this is what happens. When it comes to fire-related power failures can happen, it must be disabled, but it wasn't. That should have been part of the SOPs. The disabled system can seal the exit if it is not unlocked, which is why it's important. If there is a fire, quickly disable the auto lock system and your biometric system. If the doors don't auto unlock, then people can get trapped, as it is suspected happened in this case as well, that the doors got locked automatically. People got trapped in it. The smoke can also interfere with the biometric scanners. The minute there is smoke on the floor, biometric scanners must be switched off, which wasn't in this case. Biometric scanners may stop working in case of an emergency, and this is something which has been red flagged as well. It's important that we are careful because biometrics can slow down the entire process of escape, because there are several bottlenecks which get created because of it. It can be locked or delaying the exits, which can slow the rescue operations as well. In fact, what we are picking up is that the entire condition was so bad, is that Adeeb is telling us that the doors were reportedly locked, that rescue teams had to break through a wall. Yes, wall from the neighboring building in order to gain access. That they had to create these openings from walls to reach those who were trapped inside. Our colleague gets you more details on this developing situation and how difficult it was for the firefighters to reach those people who are trapped because of the auto lock system.
The rescue officials who reached on site in Aliganj to carry out the rescue operation in Aliganj, they had to dig around 2 holes in the adjacent building. At this particular point, you can see that there are 2 big holes which were dug up by the teams of NDRF and the SDRF. They used these 2 holes to enter inside the building, as the front part was on fire. They were unable to get inside the building, so they started digging up these 2 holes to rescue people, to move out to the safety. And at the end, around 15 bodies were recovered from these 2 holes. The rescue officials, they entered inside this building using their oxygen masks with their oxygen cylinders. They entered inside this particular building and they recovered around 15 bodies. They were sent to the KGMU, where the doctors declared them broad dead. But you can see the condition as to how the rescue operation was conducted at this particular site, when the rescue officials, they were unable to enter the building from the front side, as the building was completely engulfed in flames. They had no option, so they climbed onto another residence, and from there they started digging up these holes. And after digging up these holes, they gained access inside the building, and then they recovered around 15 bodies from this particular point of time.
In fact, both our reporters, Adeeb as well as Kritika, are joining us live from Lucknow, where that unfortunate inferno has happened. Adeeb, I'm going to come to you first. You were one of the first people to start reporting from the site. You unfortunately were witness to that entire harrowing way in which people who were trapped, they had to be pulled out from the wall, from the adjoining building. You must explain to us. It is basic. It is very, very basic that when you have a commercial building, it needs to have fire exits, it needs to have alternate exits and entry. Why didn't it happen in this case? Who are the ones who signed off on this illegal, what appears to be an illegally built building?
Well, certainly, Meghna, it is an illegal construction. The approval was given only just for the single floor, but the upper 2 floors were constructed illegally, and there were no visible entry and exit points. So far, what we have managed, when we entered inside this building, we saw that there was only 1 entry and exit point. There were no emergency exit. You can see in the visual, the only way around the in and out from this building is that this narrow passage from where the people, those who were trapped inside, they could have come out, but this was completely engulfed in flames, and they had no other option. They started jumping from the 2nd and 3rd floor. So you can see this wire, which has turned completely black. This wire was being used by the survivors. They used this wire to climb down. Several of them who couldn't climb down through this wire, they started jumping. They started jumping upon these gates. So you can see how fenced these gates are. They sustained injuries, and the rescue officers, the fire department personnel, they were unable to enter through this area, as it was completely engulfed in flames. You can see the compressors of the ACs. There are bikes parked over here. The narrow road was completely blocked by these bikes, by these AC compressors. So it was nearly impossible for the people to come out of this particular spot. And the rescue officials, now in order to save the people, they gain access through this residence, which is just adjacent to this building. They gained access from this residence. They went onto the terrace, and then they drilled up two massive holes from where they started rescuing and recovering the bodies. So the holes were dug up through this residence, and it was really tragic to witness that scene when the bodies were being pulled out by the officials of the NDRF and SDRF. They started pulling out the body. They took the stretcher inside. They placed the bodies, and then they started moving out the bodies. What we counted, it was around 15 bodies, what we witnessed at that particular time. Yesterday, when those 15 bodies were removed from this particular place, the officials, they surrounded this entire neighborhood. They were trying to rescue the people. But the bigger question is that how did this building was being run without any proper equipment, proper safety measurements? There was only one single entry and exit point, and if had it been there multiple exit and entry points, if there had been an emergency exit, innocent lives could have been saved.
Absolutely. Deep, do stay on with us. Kritika, stay with us as well. In fact, we are trying to explain how in this fire, this entire tragedy, the macabre images which were played out yesterday, there are now fresh findings which have revealed that there were serious electrical violations which happened in the building. While the sanctioned load was only 22 kilowatts, nearly 38 kilowatts was reportedly being used, and which is why it is very disturbing right now. And that's the big breaking news that we are getting for you, that there are 38 kilowatts which were reportedly being consumed, almost double the permitted limit. The mismatch in the power usage is now under scrutiny as investigators examine whether electrical overload was the one which really contributed to this inferno. In fact, I'm going to be going across to Kritika. Kritika, the investigations is on, but it appears that there may have been big lapses when it comes to the way that even power was being consumed. Forget about the basic structural problems. Overloading could have been one of the reasons as well. Kritika.
Well, absolutely, Meghna. We saw how right at the very entrance, the entrance that would have been very crucial yesterday when the fire broke out, dozens of air conditioning outdoor units were installed right at the entry point itself. And that also, in fact, becomes a very hazardous point after short circuits. Those are also equipments that catch a fire, are extremely flammable even. We saw how multiple of such units were also installed, and you're also rightly pointing out how overloading was also an issue as far as this entire building complex is concerned. So, of course, the four people, the owners of the different floors of the building, are currently have been arrested under charges of gross negligence, as well as causing, as well as sections relating to causing homicide as well. And what is in fact even more worrisome is the fact that all of this was allowed to function in broad daylight. This particular area in Aliganj, in fact, quite a posh locality. All around there are just residential buildings, homes of people, and right in the middle of it is this structure wherein in fact only a single entry point is present. Year after year, NOCs are required by law, but none of that has been heeded to so far.
We'll keep tracking the developments. Deep as well as Kritika, we are going to keep coming back to you. It's important for us to decode what really went wrong and how many young lives are going to be lost in this manner, because at the end of it, it was not an accident. It was a fatal failure. This is going to be one of the top focus stories right here on Times Now, setting the agenda. But for the time being, we are going to move on. The other big story that we are getting for you is the Deepam row. Well, the Tamil Nadu government under Chief Minister Vijay has now filed an appeal in the Supreme Court against the Madras High Court's direction to light the stone pillar atop the temple, the Deepam. In fact, the state government has basically followed the line of the previous DMK government as well on this issue, after the DMK had raised fears that lamp lighting ceremony would only trigger communal problems and could cause disturbance to the public peace. Remember, it was the High Court which had allowed the Deepam to be lit, but now it appears like the DMK, even the Vijay government has come out. Now even Vijay has appealed in the Supreme Court, saying that it is going to cause communal disturbance. Hence, Deepam should not be allowed to be lit in the temple. Listen in to how the BJP is lashing out at the TVK Sarkar.
Hindus have no rights in Tamil Nadu. Hindus have been relegated to second-class citizens in Tamil Nadu, despite the High Court and the double bench of the High Court giving an order in their favor to light the holy Deepam atop the hill. Now it has been seen that TVK government also wants to stop it after DMK. So TVK government of Joseph Vijay is nothing but DMK with a mask. That's it. DMK was anti-Sanatan, anti-Hindu. We've seen the recent statement of Udayanidhi Stalin. We've seen what Congress said, Hindu terror to extermination of Hindus. And now TVK is following the same playbook. This shows that they do not care for Hindu sentiments. They don't care for Hindu constitutional rights.
Well, more breaking news which is coming in right now. Tamil Nadu government stands firm over this. TVK government, as I was just telling you, had said that they are appealing in the Supreme Court. We now have evidence that the Tamil Nadu government has indeed informed the court that there is an appeal which they have filed in the Supreme Court. This is what Vijay's government has to say. Well, remember, the entire matter came up just yesterday in the courtrooms when the State Council had informed the court that Vijay government has moved the Supreme Court over the Deepam Rao. This after, remember, the High Court had come out and said that Deepam will be allowed to be lit. However, the then DMK Sarkar had rejected it, and now Vijay's government is following the same line. Let me go across to Dharini, who's joining us. Dharini, I believe the Vijay Sarkar, despite the criticism coming in from the opposition parties, has digged in its heels and very interestingly is following the same line which the DMK government was following in the past. That is to oppose the Deepam being lit. Why?
Well, definitely it looks like the TVK is following the footsteps of the previous DMK government as far as the Deepam controversy is concerned. So when the TVK came to power, many expected that the two-judge bench order of the Madras High Court will be followed and the order will be implemented. But now the TVK government has appealed against this in the Supreme Court. And today in the assembly, while speaking to the media outside, TVK Minister CTR Nirmal Kumar told that the people of Tirupparamkundram want peace. Their priority is peace. They do not want anything else. So it is the duty of the democratically elected state government in Tamil Nadu to safeguard the peace and harmony. So that is why we've appealed against the two-judge bench order in the Supreme Court, is what CTR Nirmal Kumar said. And he's also going on to say that for the past 100 years, the Deepam was not lit on the holy pillar atop the Tirupparamkundram hills. The Deepam was not lit on the Deepathoon in the Tirupparamkundram hills. So that tradition was not in practice for the past 100 years or more. So what is the need to introduce a new tradition? What is the need to introduce a new custom that will potentially harm the peace that is currently prevailing in Tirupparamkundram is the question that is coming in from the TVK government here as well. And with this stance, now they've approached the Supreme Court. So after the Supreme Court, comes back to its normal hearings after the vacation, so we are expecting this case to be heard. So this will likely happen in the last week of July, is what sources tell us.
So that's interesting. Last week of July, as per sources, is when we expect this entire issue to come up and resonate in the Supreme Court. But before that, in the political power corridors, already a huge face-off has happened. Thank you so much, Dharani, for joining us. With that, we are going to be wrapping up, setting the agenda. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow at 12 noon right here on Times Now. Stay tuned.